pistol range training and certification this whole last week. Well, he shot 59 out of 60 on his classification, so he became an expert, pistol marksman, whatever. So he was on the phone, everybody was coming by, tapping him on top of it. Hey, expert, hey, expert.
Oh my God.
Giving him shit while he was on the phone. Yeah.
Bill was a barker.
He's always been a good shot, though. That kid grew up with just tearing guns apart, shooting them.
Well, he'll
He knows
be
every gun there is from
well-rounded.
the first one. And so I told Holly, I said to my wife, I said, you know what? I said, he's opened his avenue up to do anything he wants. That's what he's done. And it's not costing him anything. College of Ozarks is free, you just gotta work there, and they cover everything. Well, now that he's in the National Guard in the Army, he's getting the GI Bill now, so they're giving him $5,000 a month to go to college. College is free, and he gets these stipends because or something with the government, he gets $500 because he tested like 99 on his APGAR test to get into the military. You know, I mean, so he's like, I guess I'll go to work at Menards just to some extra money. I'm like, what?
Going
He's
higher.
got room and
I
board.
always tell him, I said, son, I said, you're the only person I know that can step in a pile of shit and come out smelling like a rose.
Okay.
All right, I guess we can, I
bought my
would
first
hope
house
the
at 17.5% in '81.
administration would show.
And then I refinanced the next year for 11.5.
Well, they'll
I
be,
went to heaven.
they're still sleeping.
Yeah, that's true.
The higher you are in the food chain, the longer you sleep in the morning, right? All right, let's get the show on the road.
You're late.
I'd like to call this meeting to order, City of Washington Board of Public Works meeting, Monday, August 21st, 7:30 a.m. Roll call, please.
John Dietmeyer.
Here.
Brad Wilson,
Here.
Mike Radczak.
Here.
Steve Richardson.
Here.
Mike Coulter.
Here.
Chad Graves. Steve Strubel.
Here.
Stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. First order of business is to wish Kevin a happy birthday.
So moved.
So move.
Second.
Okay, you can have a birthday.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys very much. Thank you.
We didn't vote on that yet.
We didn't vote on that. That's right, we just moved it. Okay, minutes. Any questions, comments, changes on the minutes?
Motion.
Motion and a second?
Second.
And seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved. Thank you very much. All right, now we can get down to the nitty-gritty. Oh, priority items. I hate to ask that.
No priority item.
Oh, good. Let's move on to
We
wastewater.
got enough. We don't need priority.
Okay, wastewater. We've got the rate increase
We'll
discussion, but we're going to defer
we'll come
that
back
till
to
we
that,
finish the
yes.
rest of the
Yes,
meeting.
we'll do the rest of the meeting.
Okay,
We'll go back to that.
so thank you very much. So there's been some activity there, so we will come back to the wastewater. No other wastewater issues.
No, no.
Well, let's see, that's old business, new business. I just made myself a note. What about that sewer pipe in the creek on the east end? Is that still being designed?
It's still being designed.
It's still hanging on, right?
I have Dave here with Cochran. He decided to come in this morning bright and early. Actually, Cochran is the engineering firm that's designing that because it technically should be designed and sent to DNR and all that good stuff, but anyway, so.
So, design is essentially done, and we're getting pricing from contractors right now. Of the contractors we've worked with, I think there's one who's gonna give us pricing on the job. I hope in the very near future, we'll be able to present that pricing to the city, and we can decide to move forward with the project.
Okay. I was just curious, because
Yeah.
we haven't mentioned it for a while.
We haven't.
Knew it was being designed. but
Yeah, we've been very, very lucky. It's still holding together.
Well, I know, after we had some higher water through there, and I thought, uh-oh.
So the soils out there are pretty unique for the area, just kind of Franklin County in general. And obviously, we got in the situation we're in because of the soil stability on the creek bank there. We actually had a driller come out and they drilled down to 50 feet and didn't encounter solid rock. So that's pretty deep in the area to go down without hitting rock. So the reason we did that is we were trying to develop a pier foundation system to support the bridge that wouldn't wash out again in the future. So that did prolong the design process a little bit, having that geotechnical work done. But I think it also allowed us to put a better design together that's gonna be more of a long-term fix. So,
Okay, good. Thanks for the update.
thank you.
All right. Sorry I moved that up. Okay, water, we've got a couple of pay requests. Let's start with Caldwell Tanks.
Yes, they're requesting payment of $452,304. They are on site. I don't know if anybody's been out there. They have the second ring completed. So I guess they're maybe, what, a third of the way done on a tank? Was it?
Probably about 8 rings total.
Yeah, 8 rings, that's what I thought, so,
Wow.
yeah, so.
How high, yeah, you can tell.
Yeah, it's gonna be basically the same height as the Enduro water tank. So if you drive out west and you see the Enduro tank out there, that's basically what that one's gonna look like. It'll be smaller than Clay Street, but it'll almost be a snapshot of the Enduro. Tank out there.
Okay,
So, it's coming along. They're moving along. I don't really what else
All
to
right.
say about it.
we're moving along,
Moving along.
moving along.
Motion to pay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve this bill and pass it on. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we approve this bill. If you'll send that for payment, send that to the council for approval.
And just so you know, we'll have another request from Caldwell next month, and we will probably have another request in September. And then, and then probably at that point, we may not get another payment request, because at some point in time, they will have to stop working due to weather. When you can't paint the tank in the wintertime, so they'll have it all built by November, I think. Isn't that what they're shooting for, I think, is November to have it built? Then it'll sit until April, and then they'll come back out, I would think, re-sandblast it, coat it, and we'll fill it full.
So it'll be online June, July next year?
Yeah, probably end of June, I'd say, yeah.
Good.
We've already got the water line all ran to the property, to the site, it's all on site, so that's all taken care of. We just gotta wait for a tank to be built.
All right. They won't be the ones to do the painting, will they?
Well, one of their
It'll be a sub of
it's
theirs.
all encompassed under Caldwell. They have a painting crew along with the tank build
Oh.
and erection crew and,
Okay.
and foundation crew. They've got it all, so it'll all be through Caldwell.
Okay. Moving on to KJU. He's done some more work out there, so we have pay request number 3.
Yes. We did some grading and some cutting and some other stuff for the crew before they came out to start building the tank, so.
So
I'll
we're
move.
Second.
moved and seconded to pay Kurt Understall Company $16,237.01. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved by this board. Thank you. All right. Any other business? I've already asked my old business, so we're down to that. Shall we go back to our top of the list?
Yeah, let's go back to the top. Let's go back to wastewater. All right, so we know we've been talking about this for a long time. This is a long time needed rate increase. Our last increase was 2009. Since then, it's been, 14 years now, we've been operating a state-of-the-art treatment plant, trying to keep all of our infrastructure strong and steady and operating the way it's supposed to. Costs have continued to increase and climb to the point of which they are today. And it's gotten to the point where we can no longer sufficiently operate with the rates we're on. The question is, what rate do we pick and how do we get there? So we did some, I like to call them scenarios, we're calling them proposals, however we want to call them. We have two parts of a rate. We have what is called the fixed base rate, and we have a user rate. The fixed base rate we cannot change without it going to the voters. which is not a problem. I mean, I don't have a problem going to the voters and explaining why we need to raise rates. But that's very time consuming. We all know that on how we went through to try and get the treatment plant built, how long we did that. We can raise the user rates without going to the vote. That is for operational purposes. Everything that we're talking about here is operational. Replacement of pumps, slip lining to stop infiltration, which relieves the extra load of the treatment plant. Everything that we're talking about that's in this increase is all operational. So that's what we have to look at, that we can go and change at this point in time to try and bring some revenue in. As we all know, I think Darren actually had, maybe last month or the month before, administration is wanting the water and wastewater departments to be self-funded, meaning no more money from the stormwater fund to do slip lining, nothing from the half-cent sales tax to help offset any costs, which we had in plans to use for slip lining down in the future to keep our aggressive approach on slip lining, which we need to do. We can see a benefit of it. It's just there's so much that needs to be done, because we can go back to the way we used to do it and put $250,000 in the budget, which is what we always put in the wastewater budget, and get a little bit done. What that little bit does is it helps us with DNR, because we have to show that we are making an attempt to remove infiltration. Every year we have to report that we did X amount of work in the infrastructure to DNR. So we have to do some. We cannot eliminate it. We have to do some. But if we want to stay the way we are and aggressive, which helps the residents out. It gets rid of roots in the lines. It helps with backups in the residential properties, all that stuff. It helps with, the extra flow at the treatment plant on the slip lining side of it. Manhole lining's the same way. Lining the manholes gets all of our brick ones that has infiltration coming into them taken care of. We have new manholes out there that has roots growing in around where they tied the main into the manhole. Just over years, it happens. You line them, the roots don't get in, so lining the manholes is very important too for infiltration and possible backups. We have a resident right now in a part of town that has roots that are coming in their service lateral into the manhole. They come in around the service lateral, then they get into the service lateral and plug it up.
Wow.
Spray lining that would stop that from happening. That's what we need to keep doing that also. And that's not the only one, that's just one that we readily have problems with. So that's some of the things, and that's just the slip lining. And now we've got to look at possibly, at some point in time, we will have to expand our treatment plant. We're running, if my computer wouldn't have went dead on me, I was gonna have the flow up. But right now, we're running, for this month alone, we're running an average of 2.8 million gallons into the plant. When we hit 80%, which will be 3.2 million gallons, DNR is going to expect us to have a plan in place already to be expanding. So Dave's actually, I think, kind of here for that part of it too, for the expansion of the treatment plant. So I contacted Dave at Cochran Engineering, who has the experience and expertise of working and building treatment plants and stuff. And I asked him if he could give us an engineered cost of what it would cost to expand the treatment plant. They then contacted Wrestler Associates, who is the company that supplied all the mechanical equipment for the original treatment plant, and they came up with a number of $2.2 million to expand the treatment plant. So if we don't raise our rates to start showing that we're putting money into reserves to help fund that expansion, it's gonna make it harder for us to get bonds. We'll get them, we'll still get the bonds to do the expansion, but at that point in time, then there's going to be an enormous rate increase to pay for that, because we'll have to fund it ourselves. Have to borrow money, we'll have to pay back on it, just like we're doing the treatment plant right now.
Yeah.
Be the same thing all over again. So that's why this rate increase, not only for operational, I mean, the treatment plant's one thing. I've got a belt press down at the treatment plant that's almost 40 years old that has to be rebuilt. That's $220,000. I've got, I just jotted some little things down here for you guys. Drying bed that's failing down at the treatment plant. Now, that's $250,000. Influent pumps are $60,000 a piece. There's 4 of them at the treatment plant. You need to replace 2 at a time. That's $120,000. UV lighting, it's $50,000 a year for UV lighting to disinfect the sewage that goes out to the river. So that's just a few of the little things that are there. I mean, I could probably write a book on everything that's down there. But with that being said, that's why this rate increase is so important. It's just, how we get there.
But even this rate increase would be a stopgap type of thing, short-term, wouldn't it?
Yes, we are going to have to readdress it. So what I did was, just so you guys know, so where some of these numbers came from, I went out to New Haven's website and I looked at their rates. Their base rate is $19.57, and their user rate is $3.59 per 1,000 gallons. We're at $12.50 and $3.02. Nothing against New Haven. I used to work for New Haven. I like everybody in New Haven. They have a lagoon system, and their users are paying more than what we pay
For the system.
for the state-of-the-art treatment plant.
Yeah.
That's just one of them. Owensville, a lot smaller community. I'm not sure what they have. I'm not sure what kind of process they have. I didn't get that deep into it. Their monthly user rate is $17 a month, and their base rate is $17 a month, and their user fees are $5 per 1,000. So they're higher than us.
How many residential and commercial users do we have?
We have roughly about 6,500-ish residential, and I think like just a hair under 400 commercial. Yeah. If I had my laptop, I could give you that exact numbers, but I forgot to charge it.
Yeah.
My fault. And then Union, I used Union 2 as looking at what we could possibly do. Their rates are $19.10, and their base rate is $19.10, and their user fees are really low. They're like, what, $2.35, Sarah, something like that? So their user fees are low, but their base rate's higher. Like I said, we can't do anything with our base rate until we take it to the vote of the people. At some point in time, we're gonna have to address that. But that's gonna be probably a couple years down the road.
Why would we wait a couple years?
Well, I'm just saying, it's just
I mean,
something we have to do. I agree, we should be.
We sit
following-
here at this meeting and we've done this, and you're talking about this needs to be fixed, and that's worn out, and this is worn out. I will not certainly recommend any type of approval unless we have a timeline that when we will take a base rate proposal to be increased, as well as once we do this, we can't just sit and then wait for another 10, 11 years
Oh,
to decide to do it.
I agree.
There needs to be some sort of, at a minimal, a cost of living adjustment every year.
CPI, yes. Yes, we're planning on putting a CPI on. Do we do it right after the first one? I mean, that's the stuff that has to be hashed out, I guess, is how hard do we want to hit ourselves, because we're all in this together, in a sense. I think we ought to just go ahead and get start in October with whatever user rate we go to, and then turn right around and try and get something on the next ballot for a
Okay,
vote.
But maybe back to Brad's point, if you said, okay, our base rate is gonna be such and that's fixed, and we said, okay, we're going to whatever of these proposals that we approved, and then had a CPI rate included starting next year until you were able to get this on a ballot. At least you aren't, you don't get it to a point and then you're losing again. At least you would be keeping up
Right.
with whatever we're doing right now. And you could still do that without a vote, couldn't you?
Yeah, we can add a CPI without a vote, yes.
So,
Right, 'cause that's what we
I'm
did
kinda
with
with
water.
Brad, because this would be, this is about the third or fourth time since I've been on the board that this has come up, so I could live with this with a CPI added to it.
And I
Just
agree
that
with
keeps
you guys.
even.
Yes, I agree with you guys. So I guess it's really a decision on which one do we want to address first. Do we do proposal one where we gain 21,000 into revenue over the expenditures? Or do we go with proposal two, we're doing 498,000? Or do we do something in between? These numbers can be adjusted at any point. I know at least one person on the council, when we had the conversation last month, wanted to know if we could do it in increments, like 2 years, do half one year, half the other year, to help alleviate some of that cost. I know, talking with Mary Sprung, after that, she said we could absorb that kind of a decision to make it work. Financially, we have money in reserves. We would be dipping into reserves, but we have enough in there to offset that staged increase if we wanted to make it easier for for everybody. That's something that the decision we'll have to make.
What is the impact? Okay, these are good numbers for our annual, monthly, revenue, but what's the impact on the user? What would the average
Well, if we go
household's
to,
bill go up?
so if we go to proposal one, the average residential bill will go, right now, we're currently paying 23, the average is 23.17. It'll go up by $12.53, we would take the average to 35.70. So say $35. So if you take your residential current cost, we're going to add $12.53 to that current cost in proposal one. And then in proposal two, it would add $16.11, which would take the average user up to $39.28.
Kevin, how many gallons is the average household use in a month?
You know, I didn't look at that number. I can tell you though, but looking at all the reports we've drawn, it ranges from $685 or gallons a month, all the way up to 10,000 gallons. So so with that, I don't have the average gallons used, but that was one of the numbers I didn't look at. I was more concerned about the dollar amount.
This user fee, if somebody uses 1,001 gallon, then they automatically would go in this second proposal, would go to $13 for user fee, right? I mean, as soon as they hit 1,000 gallons, then it automatically kicks up, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if they use over,
It's
so
not-
that's
it's not-
1,001 gallons.
Yeah, it's not prorated, so,
No.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, these numbers can be manipulated. Is $7.50 too high? Do we do $7, on proposal two to still bring extra into, reserve?
Well, I'm back at if we increment it, but if we need the money now,
Yeah,
there's
I know.
no sense in incrementing
I
it.
agree.
It's a heck of an increase for everybody.
I would go with the second proposal, and then, like Brad said, I probably, as soon as people get the idea that their bill's gonna go up, then go with the base rate increase. You know,
But when we do anything, included in the formula is gonna be a CPI increase,
And add a
like we
CPI
did
to
with
it.
water.
I agree.
How much were,
I think-
you stated, I'm sorry, Brett.
Go ahead.
You stated earlier that there was money that we were getting, that the council is now basically saying, okay, that's stopping. How much of our budget was that?
We was getting an additional $250,000 from stormwater, which bumped our slip lining up to 500,000. And then we was going to get an additional 300,000 out of a half-cent sales tax.
So you got $500,000 that's kind of going away.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then everything else is just the increased cost of operation that is not gonna go back down. We can,
The half a million that goes away, where is that being absorbed at? Where is that going?
I guess stormwater is going back to, well, it'll go back into it'll stay in the stormwater fund and used for whatever out of stormwater. And I have not heard nor been told where the half-cent sales tax money would go.
So, we're,
You know, Mike?
I mean, I guess I'm getting,
Not
at,
yet.
obviously our rates need to come up. We're prioritizing, how much we're gonna put on the backs of the residents to where half-cent sales tax money can go somewhere else.
well, but the half-cent sales tax was for capital improvements. Yeah, we've done it over the years, but every time we do it, we say that water, wastewater has to be self-sufficient. And then we say, but gee whiz, as long as we can get the money, let's take it. So I guess we gotta get out of that mode of operation, and we've gotta be self-sufficient. That's
Yeah,
gonna be
we've
the
always-
hard sell to the public.
We've always got money out of, that's the only way that enterprise funds can get money.
Yeah.
Is out of those, because we can't be, general revenue can't fund enterprise funds without it being a loan. Anything that we do, other than the capital half-cent sales tax and the stormwater, because stormwater was manipulated into, we have excess flow at the treatment plant because we have infiltration. We only have infiltration when we have storms, so the stormwater fund was being used for that.
Right.
That's how we got the stormwater fund. We've always got some money out of the half cent sales tax ever since I've been here. Water and wastewater's always had
Right.
some money out of the half cent sales tax.
Right.
I guess we don't have any idea the number of users that would be less than 1,000 gallons, do we?
I can get that to you. It's in our spreadsheet. I just don't have I can get that number for you though. We can get that for you. I can get you an average use. We can email that out to you this afternoon, as soon as we get back to the office. We can get that for you.
That would be interesting to see a breakdown of, you know, under 1,000, over 1,500, over 2,000, see what percentage of household users are.
Can do that.
I guess the other thing is, on a typical commercial person out in the industrial, how much is it gonna affect them?
Well, commercial's a big change.
Yeah.
A big change. Commercial is going to go to, they're gonna get hit the hardest. But you gotta stop and think, commercial is what gives us our heaviest loads, though. I mean, you have restaurants that send excess grease down to us. You have factories out there that we're already monitoring for whatever they discharge out of their factories to us, which is an additional cost. So when we look at commercial, I mean, I'm not saying that I have a feel for them, but I also know that the residential doesn't give us, yeah, they give us a lot of sewage, residential does, we do, but the commercial are the ones that gives us the additional sewage that comes from them that causes the plant to work harder. And Sal, I know Sal will be here saying we can't affect the commercial users that much on the economic side of it. I realize that, but this has really nothing, this is operation of the sewer system. This is not building a new factory or a new anything. So anyway, so back to that. In proposal one, the sewer rates for commercial would go from an average of 92.74 to 185. And then in proposal two, it would go from 119 to 212. And we can do the same thing on that. I can let you know the averages of users, how many are above, 1,000 or above,
So this would go into effect once?
October 1st.
October 1st? Would you put the CPI in at the same time?
We can.
Because that would, well, right now, that'd be an additional pretty good chunk too, wouldn't it?
Numbers,
I would assume you would start this October 1 and that first increase would happen October of next
Yeah.
year.
next year, yeah, the
Exactly.
CPI would
Right.
be next year, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as far as the base rate goes, I think in a year or two, when you compare to the other communities what our base rate is, that'd be an easy sell.
Well, exactly, and like I said, the operation of the sewer system, the cost is not going down. So we've got to get to that level where we can pay for the current operations and then continue to pay as we go on. That's what we're looking at, is that continued cost. Every supplier I've talked to, that I deal with has told me the same thing. Don't expect costs to go down.
So
They're where they're gonna stay, so.
when we built the treatment plant, what was the impact on the users? Financial impact on the users when we spent
God,
that
I'd have
amount of
to-
money?
I have to look back.
We didn't have a rate increase, did we?
Yes, we did.
We
I don't
did.
remember what it was, but we did. Because alls I did at that point, and I'm not making excuses, alls I did at that point was ran the PowerPoint
Right.
for all the presentations. But I can find that information out and let you know
Well,
what that.
just curious, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the whole system, what was that? 12 years ago?
14?
14 years ago, and this is what it cost. We're approaching maximum usage of that plant, as well as everything else that's going on, and these are the things that we've, gotta consider. We're just not saying, well, we need more money to pay the bills.
Do we know,
We're gonna have bigger bills.
a number would be curious if obviously, if you, based on normal usage, when we would get to the point that we have to expand the plant, whether that's, I don't know if that's 2 years, 5 years, whatever that number.
We can get fairly close by, we know what certain areas are gonna grow to right now. We already have, 300 units over on High Street, 125 units on Fifth Street over by, so when we've got Vic Horsecamp building his
All this
units
stuff
down there,
back
so,
in Rabbit Trail.
so, I'm gonna defer to these guys out there, we should be able to get an average user amount of sewage from somewhere, shouldn't we, per person or something? Because I know we can't on water. I've just never looked at it in sewer.
Sure, so we could certainly use pretty similar data. You know, you could look at both. You could look on, you know, how much water your wells pump per day, or how much water you sell to your customers. That should be data that's available to you. And then divide that by your number of customers, and real quickly you can get
Get a
to,
number of
here's what the average customer uses per day. And then, just as Kevin said, look at the, you know, platted lots or planned developments that you have, and, you know, you can look real quick, okay, over the next 5 years, we're gonna have this many new customers, and what does that generate in new flows?
I guess what I'm getting at is why I asked, well, let's say that was 5 years we were gonna have to do the plan, and we could project in 5 years, the expansion we need would cost, again, make up a number, $4 million, make up a number. How much of that 4 million would we want to have in order to do that expansion? And then I would think you need to gear your rates to get
To match that.
to get to that number.
Right.
I don't know what that would be.
That
or-
gives us something solid. I
To
mean,
shoot
and
for. I
that's
mean-
why we need the
I
additional.
mean, you may have to do it sooner than you thought, which you can't plan for, or maybe you don't have to do it as soon as you thought, which would be great. You'd have time to accumulate some saved for that expansion that you know is coming, but, we look at these rates, and yeah, this one gets us basically break even, this generates $500,000 extra or whatever. Project where we need to get to, you might, again, I don't know if that's probably falls somewhere in between these numbers, but, that at least gives us a target of something to shoot for, not just randomly coming up with the numbers and not knowing if we're gonna have enough to pay for that, something big in the future.
Yeah, because we've got the numbers of what we have to do in the future. We've got the treatment plant expansion number, we know what that is. We've got operational costs, which I know what those are, so we can do that, But what I do know for right now is if we do nothing, we see where we're gonna be. If we do proposal 1, that'll get us to, like Brad said, we'll get to almost ground zero, to get us to where we need to be to even operate next year. And then we reconvene and start working on the base rate proposal, which would then fall into we've got the treatment plant to build. We'll know how long we think we can make on that before it happens. Industry, I know we have a questionnaire out of a user wants to give about over 30,000 gallons a day in sewage to us. So if that would take place, right there's a big chunk right there coming to, so we've got those numbers too, so we can work all that. But what I do know is we need to make a decision on just getting us to ground zero right now, which would be proposal 1. That's the lowest we can go to get us to where we can operate 24's budget in the black.
Which is the short-term goal.
Which
That's
is
for sure.
right now, which is a requirement from our requirements as enterprise funds. We have to have our rates to keep us in the black. We're not supposed to work in the red and then draw out of reserves. We're supposed to be operating in the black. So this will get
Okay,
us to
so
where
let me
we're
ask you
supposed to.
another question. You mentioned this earlier. If we borrow money from the enterprise fund, or if we need money from the enterprise fund to stay afloat,
From general revenue,
that's considered borrowed and we have to return it?
we have to pay it back.
So,
See, we wouldn't be borrowing money, we'd be using money out of our wastewater reserves that we currently have today to fund ourselves to keep running in the black because we didn't raise our rates to get to where we needed to.
so either way you go, we need more money.
Yeah, either way we go, we're not going in the
Because
direction.
this
we
money
need to go.
just isn't a gift to us, it's coming out of something
Yes.
else, so.
Okay.
Well, I would rip the Band-Aid off, and I would at least go in between 1 and 2. I mean, it's a big increase, no matter which way you look at it. I don't know that I would want to say, let's go all the way to 2, but, whatever you increase now, if you go above 1, we'll make that next increase maybe a little less.
A little less.
It's already a big Band-Aid, it's already a big rip of the Band-Aid now. Rip it a little more.
So you're just talking about 1?
I'm talking about I would go.
Modifying 1 to maybe $7 instead of $6.50,
But
between
again,
$7 and $7.50.
Again, with the thought process that the council certainly look at getting that base rate up, because if our base rate was anywhere near the $19, that's over $500,000 a year just in base rate income. But again, I'm not saying go to 19, but I say we need to look at taking that base rate up, and then certainly anything we do now, adding that CPI in to where it would.
CPI's gotta
CPI,
go.
yeah, CPI will be added to it for starting next year, not, we'll raise it this year, like we said, and then next year the CPI will take place. It's just, it's, like I said, it's all of us getting to a number that I guess we're comfortable with moving forward, and what I'm comfortable with is I agree with Brad, we should probably play in between proposal 1 and 2. If we have to do 1 to get us to where we're gonna be
Yeah.
in the black for 24's budget if we continue to do this. Now, I could cut stuff, I could cut the budget, but then we cut services. So, and we don't wanna go down that path either. So,
Yeah, we can't cut the budget. I mean, there's no fluff in the budget the
no.
way it is.
No, there's not. It's all stuff, this stuff that we've been putting off because we didn't have the money. Like the drying bed, I've been putting a drying bed off for 3 years.
Mike, what's your feeling from council? Any perspective at all at this point yet?
Well, it hasn't been discussed a whole lot yet, I don't think, you know, but certainly the only thing I've heard was just the kind of a little now and a little again. But I don't disagree with what you're saying, go somewhere between 1 and 2, and then try to get the base rate up soon after.
And I think all that would, in my mind, all that would be predicated then on where we think we need to be at a certain point of time for that next big expenditure, which obviously is expansion of that treatment plan, whether that's a 4-year number or a 6-year number, and if it's 3 million, 4 million, how do we, and if we want to have, if council says your fund needs to have all of that money, or you need to have 60% of that money, whatever that number is, our rates need to tell us we will be there at that number at that time. Maybe things change, who knows, but at least we will know where we wanted to go.
So, let's say we've got the difference between 650 and 750, and we went to 7. And then threw the CPI in there as a starting point. You know, you got your 1250 on both, and then you got 750 that you were looking at. Split the difference at 7, and then put the CPI in there as a starting point,
And then try to get the base rate up.
And
try
then
and
work
get
on the base rate after that,
because that's at least gonna generate you more funds.
And then we'll have, because we've got to build information to take it to the voters. So that's where we'll build the information. We project that at this date, we're gonna have to expand the treatment plant. One thing that I haven't even brought up, that's, we don't talk much about the collection side, but one important piece of equipment we have that we use almost on a daily basis is our vac truck. When I bought that 5 years ago, it was $300,000. If I bought it today, it'd be $850,000 for that same truck. So that kind of stuff has gone up too, that would also be tied into that operational side of needing the revenue to replace that, because that truck is, I mean, it's paid for itself already in how much we use it. We use it for, of course, cleaning sewer lines and cleaning out manholes with the backside, but we hydro excavate with it. We hydro excavate it anytime we're around gas or anything that we have a situation, we hydro excavate, which saves dollar amounts in damages, saves possible safety problem. I mean, so that's just one little thing on the collection side that we really don't talk about. We got lift stations that we're maintaining all the time. We take in hand wipes. It's a whole nother conversation. We're pulling pumps every day at our lift stations to get the hand wipes out of them, which wears the pumps out, and our smallest pump costs $5,000 to replace. Our biggest pump, if it was the storm pump at Walnut Street Lift Station, you're looking at probably over $100,000 for that one. So all that stuff gets tied into the operation that we're not draining, we're not bringing in the funds to operate. So, and I think we're all on the same page. We know we need to raise rates. It's just where do we get to? I keep on just giving you the doom and gloom. I hate to, but that's my job. That's what it is. It's getting to that point. I'm comfortable with taking the $7 increase at my house. I mean, we have to. I mean, it's no choice. I'm also comfortable with putting information together, with everybody working together, to take the base rate to the voters to get that raised. I mean,
Kevin, what did you say the user rate in New Haven was?
the user rate in New Haven is $5.
Five.
Oh, no, wait, let me read, look at that.
Yeah, we're not really talking apples and apples.
Yes. So the user rate for New Haven is 359, and the base rate is 1957.
Right,
Owensville's the one that has the 17
and 5,
and
yeah.
5, yes.
Yeah.
What
And
was
then
Union?
Union,
It was 359.
yeah, 235 for Union.
Oh,
Union is 1910 base rate and right around 235 for user.
What is
So our user rate would
the biggest difference
be quite a bit above that.
between next year's projection of being in the hole and this year or the last year? Is there, what's the major change? We haven't, year after year, we haven't been almost $2 million.
Well, one of the major changes that's happened in the last, I'll say, 2 years that I've tried to absorb and just do what I can is the cost to operate. 2 years ago, if I needed to buy one of the pumps at Walnut Street Lift Station, the small one, not the storm pump, the small ones, that pump would have cost me $25,000. Today, to replace that same pump, it's $60,000. And that's just one thing, but everything across the board has gone up. Pipe has gone up. Rock has gone. Everything that we do has immensely jumped in the last 2 years. And we see it, we see it when we go out and buy our stuff at the stores and stuff. I mean, and it's the same. It's just a lot more expensive in the industrial side than it is the residential side to see what's going on.
Well, the reason I'm asking is the proverbial question, how in the world did we get into this fix that we need to make up the difference of almost $2 million a year?
We never raised rates for 14
Yeah,
years.
well, that's why I'm
I
asking
mean,
it,
that's
because
the answer.
that's the kind of thing that we need when we not only talk to the council members, but when it gets rolled out for public education, they're gonna
To
say,
the residents.
what have you guys been doing, sleeping at the wheel?
I
You know?
wouldn't say we've been sleeping at the wheel. We've been talking about it.
Right.
It's just getting to that point to
We gotta
get
get
that
to that
decision.
point, we gotta do it.
We had some years when there was absolutely no rate raises gonna go. I mean, we know, we fought through that. I mean, look how long it took us to get water. It's the same thing.
Long time, you're right.
Long time. I mean, so we're at that point now where I can't keep operating the wastewater system to keep it at the level that I feel we should be providing to all the residents of the city of Washington, ourselves included, if we stay on the same path we're going.
Where would you need to take the base rate, do you think? If, let's say that went to general,
That's another one, I agree with Brad. We've got to do some forecasting on that to see where we can comfortably go. Because I don't, just like waiting to get the numbers for the expansion, I could have thrown numbers out for the treatment plant expansion, but I wanted to wait until we had some good, trusted engineering numbers that could support that. It'd be the same thing with the base rate would be, we'll have to do some forecasting to get to that point of saying, this is what we know we need to go to get to where we need to be.
well, the thing is, if we went to $7 per gallon on, like you, splitting the difference, how much would that generate?
I'd have to read.
Well, I mean, one's 21, one's 498, so it'd have to be something.
About 2.5, about $250,000.
Okay, that would be at least a decent stopgap for, until we got this into a regular, base rate taken a look at, wouldn't it? What do you guys think we need to have? The whole enchilada?
I think it just boils down to how much do you want to, how much are you gonna need to borrow when you have to go ahead and do your expansion?
Kevin, that was,
I mean, that's really it.
Okay, that's
How
fair.
much are you gonna have to go ahead and borrow to go ahead and do it? Obviously, you're not gonna get it in, 1 year's gonna get you 500,000 if you go on the high side. But, you're gonna need, and Dave, I don't have your email in front of me from last week, but 12.2
yes.
to do the expansion,
Yep.
you're gonna have to borrow money anyway.
Well,
All you're trying to do is cut in so you don't have to borrow as much.
Right.
Darren, is the city still paying off the original treatment plant?
Yeah, we've got until 26 to pay that off. So in 26, we'll get an extra $1 million back into the coffers, but.
So that helps a lot.
So it'll help, but we gotta get to
Carrying that
26 though. We've gotta get to 26, that's the whole thing. So, and hopefully we can make it until 26. So that's where we'll have to do the forecasting on
That's,
usage.
like I said, if you look at it that way,
What's the earliest if if you went to council and said, hey, we'd like to put the base rate on the ballot? You couldn't do it in November, could you? It'd be next,
No, I would advise, if you're gonna do that, I would wait until, April,
okay, that makes
and
sense.
just have it, keep it at municipal elections. I would recommend you keep it at the regular municipal elections. I don't wanna get it mixed in with.
All that, yeah, all the rest of it, yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, that makes sense.
I mean, keep it local. I mean, that's a local decision, basically, is what you're doing, and that's
Yeah.
why we've always advocated to keep it at April. That's when you get the municipal elections.
We did that with the treatment plant too, when we built the treatment plant, if I remember right. 'Cause I was just running the PowerPoint at that point in time, but I remember some of the discussion, on it, but.
I mean, if you're looking for a recommendation or a motion and some at this point, I would make the motion that we go to $7 per $7 per 1,000 gallons, leave the base rate at the 12.50, but make sure that the CPI is
Added to it.
added,
next
attached,
October.
or whatever that verb.
The following year, just like, it'll be the same as what the water verbiage is on the water side. It should be.
It's based on, we do it every year for the water. We go to, the Bureau of Labor Statistics and go ahead and pull up the CPI for St. Louis, whatever it is, like when we roll around budget time, which is October 1st.
But I think doing that, we also need to have some numbers of where we would need to take the base rate to be able to
Yes.
have it on the next municipal election.
We will start working on, we'll start working on that. We'll start do some forecasting on future growth, what we have. I will also take in some of the county stuff, because as developments develop on the south side of town, they're coming into our treatment plant on that side too, so that gets added into it, and that's something that, DNR pushes pretty hard, on having less, small plants if there's a big plant in the area to go to. So that's what we've been picking up. So I know there's a couple subdivisions, I think, being developed out on that side. I would probably utilize Cochran and some assistance on this to help with some of that outskirt stuff, if need be. But we can get some I think we can get some good forecasting numbers together, for the base rate proposal side of it. So.
You need a motion of some sort, right?
Need a motion of some, but I'm waiting for my banker over there to get done.
Oh, no, no, you're good, you're good.
One other thing I would tell you, what I have heard a little bit from the council has been kind of, tiering this up, like so much of an increase for this year, and then get to another, for the second year. That's the only comments I've heard. So my guess is that they're probably gonna wanna step into this, not bite it off at $7 per.
Well, that's halfway between the two proposals.
Yeah, I know.
So, and we could do that, but let's go back to what you said. It depends on how much it's gonna cost and how much we're gonna have to borrow. And so it's either pay me now, pay me later. We're gonna need the money ultimately.
You're gonna need it.
I second Brad's proposal.
I would agree to that too. I think, say it again. So you go 7,
I would go 7.
Per 1,000.
650, yeah, 7 per 1,000, add the CPI on.
And a
And that would-
recommendation to go to the municipal as soon as possible to increase the base
For the
rate.
base rate.
yeah, and that would be part of our recommendation as
Correct.
well, yeah.
And this is all, well, right now, it's to get us operational for '24, but also get the wastewater department into a self-funded enterprise fund.
Which is where we have to be.
And that's the avenue we're going down, and that's the only way to get there is to go down this path, so.
So, Mike, are you okay with that?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so that's, as long as Sarah's got it down on paper, we got, we got,
He made it, I
Seconded.
seconded.
Officially, we all got an aye on that.
Well, all in favor?
Aye.
There we
There
go.
we go. That makes it official.
Makes it official.
It's got to be on the disc. Okay, so not to, I just want to carry this comparison over to the water fund and a new water tank. How are we paying for the new water tank?
We are paying, we are getting a, I can go, if you want to, I'll let Darren do it, but I know what, but I'll let Darren discuss it.
You have in your water fund over 2 years, we were gonna go ahead and look at paying it over 2 years from your water fund, but then you also were, we were successful at getting $1 million from the county's ARPA funds.
That's right, okay.
So that's the other thing. We had our own ARPA funds that the city could use, but it's about, we have about 1.4 unallocated in ARPA funds. I have urged the council to go ahead and just tuck that money away because basically, as I've said before, it pays for the inflation that it created itself. ARPA funds just gave us, because now when we go out for road projects, when we go out for anything that we go out for bid, we're getting, the prices are coming in at, we had, I'll give you West Third Street? Yeah. Is that, or East Third Street? Yeah. I'm sorry, that's the one that we just recently bid, that's gonna be, the work's gonna be done in spring of '24. Round numbers, we anticipated $1 million,
Yeah, a little under $1 million, it came in at almost 1.6.
so there you go.
Wow.
So it's everywhere, it's not just us, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's everywhere.
And so, anyway, back to your question, we talked, and I talked to Kevin, and we were trying to make sure that the water fund had enough to absorb that, because it was like 2.2 for the tower, or 2,
A total was 2.2 or something.
I think it was 2.2
1.8
with
for
the grading.
1.8 for the tank and.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
But you have, so that's what we were looking at, 600,000 this year, next year for your water fund, and then $1 million that we receive from the ARPA funds.
Okay.
So, but like Kevin was saying earlier, the goal is, when you go to the voters for the capital improvement sales tax renewal, we're not going to them for funds to go ahead and slip line your sewer system, do those things. That should be self-funded by your user fees.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do, because we're really going to need to get off of that. And same way with the water tower, because we did have there was some allocated that was gonna be in the capital improvement sales tax to go ahead and pay for a portion of the water tank.
Yeah, there was.
But we were successful at getting the county funds, and so we're grateful for that. So if we didn't have that $1 million, we'd probably be using our own ARPA funds, probably, and that would be it.
Well, like Brad mentioned earlier, we've had this discussion. We've had this discussion since we built the treatment plant we have, and we keep kicking the can down the road, and we've just got to do something about it.
What's the
what
CPI been, Darren?
What's that?
You know what this last past year, what the CPI?
This
was?
last, I checked it out for our budget purposes. We do it for we look at, for wages for employees, et cetera. It was 3.1, I think the last was 4.2 the month before that, and it dropped another point. So it's on a downward trend. That's a good part. That's good news. But last year, at the time when we were adopting the budget, and we had that escalator in there for the water rates, it was 8%.
We can address that, but.
So I think what would put you behind probably is not having that CPI escalator in there all these years. Yeah.
Oh, no doubt.
And to me, it's just like, why wouldn't you have that in there? You need to have that in there. But I think that's what's gotten you behind. You can't just sit there and have flat rates and not revisit it.
I think that would be a number that if we, as we put numbers together and look at going to the voters with something, to show them, hey, we tried to help out, we didn't raise it each year, had we done that, this is where we would have been and would be at, and now we're trying to fix that, but, because, we'd be in a much better spot. We're the same, we were in this spot now when we built that treatment plant, because we hadn't raised fees forever and ever and ever.
Right. I think Kevin was telling me that you guys had, issues with DNR on the rates then, because.
Well, yeah, because that DNR got involved in all that because we wasn't prepared for it. We knew we had problems, but at the time, the board didn't prepare for
I
it.
mean, it'd be interesting
I
to
mean,
see,
it's-
obviously, we've had no increases in the last 14 years. We had an increase when we built the plant. How many years did we go prior to that without an increase? I mean, we could be looking at, we've had
Well,
one
we have-
increase in
we
25
have-
years.
we have-
one
we have-
increase in 20 years.
We have ordinance records, I should, I can look that up, I can rummage through the archives and find that
And
number.
again, it's, you know,
Well, the other thing is that we need to be prepared is to just, if you look at the entire rate, both the base rate and how much will our residents be paying compared to Union or New Haven or on a regular basis, what will they be paying? I know the base rates are different, but I mean, it's really comes down to what's the real dollar out of their pocket.
Bottom line.
We've got some
Yeah,
numbers.
we got a
you,
spreadsheet
and I-
that we can put the numbers in, and it'll tell us, you know, it starts from the lowest one all the way to the highest one, so, you know, we can manipulate that any way we need to get some information to you. So, I think, looking at a couple of them I looked at my own, I looked at most of you guys's, just because, but, what I did notice was a lot of the, what we call, fixed income people are our low user residents. And they use, because I can look at the accounts online too and see that their usage is low, which tells me that they're, you know, maybe a single elderly person or two elderly people that don't use a lot of water. You know, so on that side of it, but I can't give you the total amount of numbers, but I did look at some of those, and looking at our spreadsheet and then looking at our software that we use to gather the information, our census software, looking at the usages that they use, you know, it's like 10 gallons every 3 hours. You know, it's a toilet flush. You know, I mean, you know, it's not like you see like my house, you know, 200 gallons here, 10 gallons there, 50 gallons here, you know. I mean, with 3.5 people, but, so but we can,
Showers at the schools again.
so we can get those numbers for you, so, on the low users, the average, we'll get the average low user too, how many are at that too, we can get that too, so. Because it's all off of flow, so we use those numbers to calculate the numbers, so we can just go off the flow and get that.
Well, thank you for your recommendation. Any of you that want to go ahead, we will have a workshop with the council tonight at 6. Feel free to come to the meeting, have a discussion, because that's going to be primary thing that we're going to talk about with the council.
That'd be a good idea.
I'll be there.
I could,
All the support,
I'll be-
all the
yeah,
support I
no,
can
I'm-
get.
I was gonna ask that, so thanks for bringing that up.
I have a
All right,
American Legion tonight, so.
well, that wore us out. Anybody got anything else we want to talk about? Thanks, everybody, for adjusting your schedule.
Yes,
This
thank you all
was
very much.
a very good reason to be here this morning for tonight's meeting, so. If there's no more business, our next meeting is scheduled September 26th. We'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
And there are,
Thank you.
there are breakfast snacks in the back room to celebrate Kevin's birthday, so don't
Anybody's still
run
hungry.
off. Sarah has a nice spread back there.
Oh, that's understandable. That is very understandable.